"You are never to go to the fells," was warned Jack, a young boy of 12. His mother was obstinate in her rule, and unless Jack wanted a taste of her switch, he would do as he was told. But you see, he was a precocious scamp. He knew how to get away with whatever he wanted, and not even his mother's lashings from both her tongue and strap were enough to stop his plan tonight. Just as the sun went down and the moon began to rise, the boy carefully and quietly slid out of the window of his 2-story house. He jumped down from the garage just below his window and went crashing down into a pile of hastily stacked plywood. In shock, his head veered towards the window to see if his mother had woken up. But luckily, her bedroom window stayed dark. The boy was safe for the moment. Dusting himself off, he made for the tree line. The moonlight made the trail leading to the fells less frightening. The yellow moonlight lit the path. To his relief, just up ahead stood his friend Sam. The two agreed that they'd venture to the fells together to see what their parents were so fearful of. He was just glad that he wasn't alone in his endeavor, doubting that he could bolster the courage without him. The two reached the end of the woods, looking back and sure that they were long from home, and at this point, turning back would be an embarrassment, for not only themselves, but for the entire class, who had goaded them to the task in the first place. The climb wasn't nearly as rough as it seemed from the bottom, and before too long, they had reached the summit of the fells. A sharp wind pierced their ears. Looking around, they could find nothing unusual, aside from the sparse vegetation, and what looked like to be graffiti from drunken teenagers. The fells appeared to be a grossly exaggerated tale from schoolmates and adults alike. It was then Sam spotted a crevice just behind some small brush. There lay a wooden door, and on it a serpent symbol carved into its face. A staircase carved from stone led down to the deep black unknown. The boys mustered bravery and went down the flight of stairs. He moved forward, blindly hugging the wall, while scooting ever so slightly. About 10 minutes into doing so, he had found that Sam had went missing. The boy cursed his supposed friend for being so cowardly, to leave him to grope in the darkness. Though sightless, he at least knew he had made half a dozen twists and turns before he found himself lost and without a companion. Presently, he was trying not to panic. That's when an ever-so-dim light made itself known. Its pale blue hue beckoned him. He imagined that this sensation might be something similar to what sailors who were lost at sea felt when seeing the lights of a passing ship. The light meant salvation from a horrible death in a dark, endless abyss. He rushed to the light, yet slowed his pace as he grew closer to the archway leading to the illuminated room. He could hear someone sobbing, albeit quietly. The sobs were followed by an inaudible chatter, something he might compare to what he heard every Sunday in church. Peering around the corner revealed an odd sight. There was a black pit in a large room. The room must have been hundreds of feet high and wide. There, just across the maw, stood a dozen or so figures clad in black, and below them knelt a penitent-looking boy. It was Sam. Their leader stood over the boy, holding a dagger carved from obsidian. The scene flustered the boy, and in his befuddlement tripped over himself. The commotion drew the attention of the unholy congregation. Their leader pointed and warned the boy to stay still, but Jack knew better. He pushed himself off the floor and made a mad dash through the black tunnel. The screams of his friend and the darkly dressed strangers were not far behind him. However, the tunnel was labyrinthine, and he realized quickly that he was lost. Panicked, the boy ran through the pitch black, catching himself on the sharp edges of the tunnel. His safety was second to his desire to escape. He could see the mob was behind him as their torches began to light the corridors. The high-lilting screams of their obviously female leader demanding his capture echoed through the long halls. That's when he spotted the faintest of light. The gleam of a full moon had shone through the cracks of the wall. With all his might, the boy pushed. He struggled for a moment, yet his efforts paid off as the wall gave way. As fortune would have it, the hole led directly to the woods just below the fells. The boy needn't look behind him as he bolted through the woods. The trees had taken an oppressive aura, for they hung over and reached down menacingly. And behind every shadow and bush, the child imagined his pursuers ready to jump out and drag him back into the dark underbelly of the fells. Before too long, he reached his house. He flung open the door and slammed it behind him, making sure to lock it. He rushed upstairs, convinced that awakening his mother and imploring her to call the police would be the safest course of action. Yelling for his mother, the boy ran into her bedroom, switching on the light and revealing nothing but an empty bed. It was then the car pulled into the driveway. Jack watched from the second-story window as several people in black robes stepped into the driveway. He was dumbfounded as to how they had found him. His mother's warning echoed in his head, in the very same way as the mysterious leader's voice at the fells had. This led to an epiphany, that the voice of the fells was that of his mother.